I'd like to move next to Frank Farm and ask him to say a few words about the perspective of Honu management from the fishing community, and what goals you would see or what issues you would see with Honu management.
Thank you, Stuart. Is this loud enough? Yes. Okay, fine. First of all, I think coming from the viewpoint of a number of fishermen that I've contacted since being quote unquote selected to sit in on this panel here, I think we all owe an appreciation to Westpac Council, the federal agencies, and the state of Hawaii for this forum, for initiating the forum itself, and for assembling the mixed groups of interest on the Honu and its related ecosystem, because this is a start. And I and some other fishermen perhaps were not as informed, although we wondered what is the state's position, how far along have they been going on, and we learn a little more. We learn a little bit more as to the process. And this is the beginning. However, in going around and trying to check with people with the interests of the turtle itself, and this is thinking of the habitat of the turtle, it affects mostly the nearshore fishermen. So I'm not addressing anything way out in the bigger zone, and stick mostly to the nearshore. And I tossed the question out to different people, and one of the persons that I recently tossed it out and says, what do you think about the forum that's coming up in the Honu, and how can we manage it? Do you think it should be delisted? What is the situation? And put it in a nutshell, he said the nearshore, with respect to the Honu, the nearshore ecosystem and the fishery is out of balance. Quite frankly, that's it, in a nutshell. The success of the threatened species of the Honu is so successful that anyone that contributed to that can really pat themselves on the back. But with the good comes the other things. What are you going to do? And this has affected the nearshore fishermen because of the primary habitat of the Honu is in the shallower waters, up the streams and bays and things of that nature. It's certainly common knowledge that it is recovering in leaps and bounds, or to some it has recovered already. And as we learn more about the delisting aspects, it probably will someday be a candidate to be delisted. It should be based on the sound biological information on the current population size. And certainly it doesn't appear that the green sea turtle is getting close to being extinct so that it would remain that basis. The turtle population on the main Hawaiian Islands has a very big, significant impact to the nearshore fishery and the ecosystem. So what can or should be done? This forum is certainly a step, a beginning in the right direction, and the follow-up action should be continued and initiated by the responsible federal and state entities to pursue to improving the balance of this ecosystem with respect to the green sea turtle. And I learned tonight with this gentleman next to me that they're doing just that. Some of the concerns, we know that the carrying capacity is something that you should be concerned about. That capacity, again, is close or maybe past. My personal observation, without divulging my age here, is that I see more green sea turtles today on the main Hawaiian Islands than I did at the end of World War II. For those of you, we had a big period of time when no fishing, no activity was going on during World War II. And my fishing activities started just about that time after I got discharged from the Army in '45. And I did not see as many green sea turtles at that time as we can observe today. And this is just knowledge. We don't do flyovers or count and everything else, but just by observation. Now, the increase in the green sea turtle population is certainly in competition with other fish and other marine resources. And you talk to fishermen and you can hear a lot of stories, and you can take some to be very factual, and a lot of empirical knowledge comes out of the old people. Fish in certain areas where there is a real abundance of green sea turtle, there's noticeable difference in similar fish like the palani or the pualo, even the mainini, as to their numbers and also the fat content and the size of those fish. It's something that you have to think about. And you say, well, okay, talking on, besides the fish, the vana, a delicacy for Hawaiians and the local population. It's not that easy to find good fat vanas. When I say fat, that's a slang thing, but you know what I mean, how filled it is in the areas that they used to be very good to harvest. They can get them, and it doesn't have the same content. So right away, the obvious thing fishermen think about is the competition, the lack of limu, and the effects of the overpopulation of the green sea turtle. Not necessarily scientific facts, but something that does happen out there. We know that the habitat of the green sea turtle is in the shallower waters. Over a period of time, there's so many turtles that we see what we've never seen before. Where turtles are resting on the beach. You go to Laniakea, and I talk to people on Kona. I talk to people on Maui. They're on the beach, they're sunning themselves, which is fine. It's a healthy thing, it's a population. But again, this is something that you never saw before from, again, if I can refer back from when I knew what the resource was like in World War II. The green sea turtle, as an example, is found in the Haleiwa area where Laniakea, and there's a lot of turtles out there. Even up the stream, the Anahula stream. You go way in and up the stream and up the valley. And they're under the grasses and everything else. Just to show you that, again, the population increase and where these animals have to go to take care of themselves. And we can talk about other things that fishermen get concerned about, or the scientists will get concerned about, the dangers. They talk about propeller damage, they can talk about shark attacks, and etc. Recent articles come up about shark attacks, and two surfers on the Big Island, I believe, had some incidents, and right away, by human association, they point to the green sea turtle. Whether that's a fact that it contributed or not, who really knows except the shark? But these things always surface from the general population, whether it be fishers or other things of that nature. And as we were talking about that, and one of the fishermen says, "Gosh, did you see what happened?" and so forth. And then some comment came up, "Yeah, but if the shark really wanted to, it could kill these people without any trouble." And so the other guy, looked around and he said, "What are you saying? It's okay to have the bait in the water and the shark misinterpret it. As long as they don't kill the humans, take a leg or something like that. It's all right." And this is the kind of discussions that you hear among the fishing community as to the interactions of these things. Well, what are the options? If we really wanted to look at it, and maybe as Stuart would talk about, if we're trying to keep the green sea turtle population and continue it to grow and everything, one of the first things we would have to do is increase the ecosystem, the habitat. So how do you do that? The landmass around the main Hawaiian Islands is set, unless we have a little more volcano eruption on the Big Island and it extends out. But I mean, there's no way that you can increase the shoreline so that you can accommodate an even bigger increase in the turtle population. So the reefs, the bays, and the areas, the shallow waters that the turtles frequent and forage, that's set too. So what you going to do? And this is the part that people don't want to hear, and we fishermen don't necessarily want to hear, that you might have to resort to culling, taking and reducing the numbers so that the numbers satisfy the capacity and the ecosystem so that you can maintain a balance. Not a popular thing. Now remember the word I use, culling. I'm not saying slaughtering, which some people jump to conclusions. It's the systematic way based on numbers that's supplied by the scientists, the data people, and the plan that they have. So you get the best available data and input from the stakeholders. And we would recommend that whoever's driving the bus, as we say, whether it be the state or the feds, get together and involve all of the stakeholders. I'm not talking about the fishermen, involve the fishermen, involve all of the interested stakeholders and work out what we heard earlier. You got to have that management plan. And tonight, I foresee this only as the first step in a management plan. The first step to try to gather the interested people and work together with them. Although they've done a lot of groundwork at the state level and the federal level, I think it's more time that a few representatives from the rest of the interested parties as to the success of the Honu so that it can maintain itself and continue for a long time. There were some suggestions, and I tossed this out only as examples and something that's the top of the head. And I'll say that I talked to at least 30 different individuals that either hunt turtle in the past when it was available or did not hunt turtle. I tried to get a cross-reference. You know what's interesting is that age made a difference. And I'm not talking about the age of the Honu, the age of the hunters or the age of the populace. The younger generation, because they grew up under the circumstances that our society placed the Honu and how they got acclimated to human exposure, they never ate sea turtle. I don't know. But as you go to the middle-aged people, I remember my father or my grandfather or my family. A little lesser percentage. As you get to the older people and you talk to them, what's taking them so long? The turtles are everywhere. And they're good. They're good to eat. And we've eaten it. We've fed our families and everything else. And so you ask them other questions. You got any suggestions for the management that we can pass on so that we can develop a good plan so that people can take care of it and the turtles can strive, and continue? Oh boy, don't ask fishermen for things like that. You got such a cross-reference of input and how everybody feels he's got the solution. And until they know the regulatory or the other parameters that are involved in something like this, few of us are even close to the solution. But they can offer a lot of ideas, again, which is good. That's what we should hear, and that's what we should pass on to the people. Some of the thing is controls, and believe it or not, to the person, every person I talk to, no commercial harvest. Okay? This is even talking to some of the big guys, when I say big, most active commercial harvesters of the Honu, who placed it on the endangered species list as a threatened thing to begin with. And they recognized this, and they said, we shouldn't do any commercial. Take to feed the family, have strict controls, develop a TAC, develop whatever the quota is. That's what those scientists are supposed to do. And if they can't count them, come visit us. We'll show them by the numbers where the turtles really are. Every island that I talk to, there's a lot of turtles. I'm talking about the main Hawaiian Islands, okay? And I was certainly surprised. Some of these guys, especially the commercial guys, had great knowledge, even to say, you know, these turtles come from French frigate shows. They got a long way to swim. And, you know, I said, oh. And evidently, during his time, he caught some with tags on that indicated that they were from French frigate shows. So, you know, they're knowledgeable in their own way, and their empirical knowledge is a real asset to both the state and the feds when you try to develop this good management plan. They say no spearing, no laying of nets for overnight or anything like that where you don't want to drown the turtles. They feel that the turtles should be harvested and culled to the point that it can create the balance, provide food or subsistence food to homeowners, I'm not homeowners, but the populace, no commercial, no selling, etc. Strict controls by whoever, and I assume it's going to be the state, DLNR, and boy did they have suggestions. Get a permit system, get a lottery system. If a person wanted to harvest a turtle for food and help in the culling and creating the balance, then he should get a permit. He should be good enough to go up and stand tall and say, I would like to harvest turtle, I want to eat it, and I'm willing to do it. I can get a permit. With that permit, they say, he has to report the data. There'll be a limited time that he has to use it or lose the permit, things like that. And not all of these would work. These are top-of-the-head things to show that the fishermen are really thinking to try to develop a good quality plan to protect the Honu and to protect them by maintaining the balance of the Honu out there and at the same time doing things. So, you know, we can talk about the different things, and there's a long list I can read off. I made a few notes and things. And, you know, I said, well, how are you going to capture these if you don't take them? What method are you going to use? And the guy says, you know, give the turtle an even break. Catch him by hand. So, you know, another thing. What are you going to do with the turtle that's acclimated and it's on the shoreline? And let those guys that are doing the management and developing that plan protect that areas. And they can say, let's say you have to be turtles outside of the reef, or you have to be so far outside of the breakers. You have to catch them in the wild. If a tourist type situation has a spot and they can identify it where the Honu is resting in one particular place when they go to visit, that's off. I know this will drive the enforcement people crazy, but you know, these are the kind of things. The fishermen are sincere in trying to make it work so that the populace stays healthy and can continue, and if any taking of the turtle, it would be consumed and not wasted as when they shoot goats and things like that on the Bigot Island and so forth and leave it go. And I'm not condemning that, but these are the kind of thoughts. So here, this is just the beginning. You have to develop criteria so that you minimize the trauma to the turtle being taken and give them that respect, because of the way things have transpired over the number of years and the relationship that the human race, especially in Hawaii, has towards the turtles. And if you were to ask me, well, did you catch and eat turtle? Yes. During my fishing days in those times, we did, and it was good. My father was a great lover of eating turtles, and I guess his Portuguese blood liked to do it. And my mom, being a good Chinese lady, cooked it many ways, and we enjoyed it. And we lived without it all these years. But now the situation is so healthy that we have to do something to protect the turtle by balancing the ecosystem. And we have to do it wisely. So again, we are only at the beginning of this discussion, and we, the fishermen, realize that this will take a long time and honest effort by many to develop a good management plan for the turtles, for the fish, for the other marine life, and the ecosystem. There needs to be definite follow-up by the responsible agencies. And again, we thank all those responsible for tonight's initial meeting. Thank you.
And thank you, Uncle Frank. I think that sounded like kind of a whole management plan right there. But these are the types of ideas that need to be tossed out on the table, right, for everyone to hear and everyone to discuss.